A mother and her little girl vanished after a routine trip to the grocery store, leaving an entire town haunted by unanswered questions. Behind their disappearance lurked Lila, a woman whose calm smile masked ties to a dark network that preyed on the innocent. Years later, a dusty box in a neighbor's basement shattered the silence and set Sarah Mason on a path to uncover the truth about her daughter. But just listen to how shocking the twist in this drama turned out to be and why justice ultimately prevailed. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the bustling parking lot of the Green Valley grocery store. It was a typical Saturday afternoon, and shoppers hurried to their cars with bags filled with fresh produce and household essentials. In the midst of the chaos, a mother and her young daughter, Emily, were finishing up their shopping. Sarah, a single mother in her early 30s, was a picture of determination. She had battled through life's challenges with a fierce spirit, striving to provide a stable life for Emily, who was only 8 years old. As they walked to their car, Emily's laughter echoed through the air, her small hand clutching a bright red balloon that bobbed in the breeze. "Can we get ice cream after this, Mommy?" she asked, her eyes wide with hope. "Of course, sweetheart," Sarah replied, smiling down at her daughter. "Just let me put these groceries in the trunk first." It was a simple moment, one of those fleeting instances of happiness that would replay in Sarah's mind over and over again in the years to come. She had no idea that this would be the last time she would experience such normalcy. As Sarah opened the trunk, a strange feeling washed over her, a prickling sensation at the back of her neck, as if someone were watching her. She shrugged it off, attributing it to the stress of single parenting and the weight of the groceries she was lifting. With the last bag stowed away, she turned to Emily, who was already jumping up and down in excitement. "Let's hurry, Mommy," Emily squealed, pulling at Sarah's hand. They walked together toward the front of the store, where the ice cream truck parked just outside. But as they approached the entrance, a figure caught Sarah's eye, a man standing by a van, his gaze fixed on them. He was tall, with dark hair, and a worn-out jacket that hung loosely over his frame. Sarah felt a twinge of unease, but she dismissed it. There were plenty of people around. She was just being paranoid. "Mommy?" Emily tugged her arm, pulling her attention away from the man. "Can I have chocolate chip?" "Sure, honey." Sarah smiled, but the unease lingered as they stepped inside the store. Hours later, the sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple. Sarah and Emily had enjoyed their ice cream and were now on their way back home, laughter still echoing in their hearts. But as they drove through their quiet neighborhood, Sarah noticed a series of flashing lights ahead. Her heart sank as she realized it was their street, surrounded by police cars and onlookers. As they parked the car a block away, Sarah felt her stomach twist into knots. "Stay close to me, Emily," she said, gripping her daughter's hand tightly. "Let's see what's going on." They walked toward their house, but before they could reach it, a police officer stepped in their path. "Ma'am, I need you to step back," he said firmly. "What's happening?" Sarah's voice trembled as she sensed the gravity of the situation. "Ma'am, you need to stay back," the officer repeated, his expression grave. "There's been a report of a missing person in the area." Sarah's heart dropped. "My daughter and I just came from the grocery store. We live right there." She pointed, panic rising within her. The officer's eyes softened slightly, but he remained firm. "Please, ma'am, I need you to step back for your safety." With a growing sense of dread, she watched as officers swarmed her home, searching every corner, every crevice. Minutes felt like hours as she stood there helpless, her mind racing. She had heard stories of missing persons, but never did she think it would be her family caught in such a nightmare. As night fell, fear settled in like a thick fog, obscuring any hope of clarity. Hours stretched on painfully long, and the police had yet to provide any answers. Sarah could only think of one thing. Emily. Where was she? Why hadn't she returned home with her? The questions clawed at her insides, tightening like a vice grip. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a detective approached her. "Ma'am, we need to ask you a few questions about your daughter." "What do you mean?" Sarah's voice cracked. "Emily was with me. We went to the grocery store, and then we came home. Where is she?" The detective glanced at the ground, a look of sympathy in his eyes. "We're trying to locate her, but we believe she may have been taken. We need to know everything that happened this afternoon." Shock coursed through Sarah's veins as she struggled to process his words. "Taken? No, no, that can't be true. We were just shopping." The detective's expression was serious. "Can you describe anyone suspicious you saw while you were out?" The memory of the man by the van flickered through her mind. "There was a man. He was standing by a van, and he was watching us." Her voice trembled as she spoke. "Do you remember anything else about him? His appearance? His actions?" The detective pressed. Sarah could only shake her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I don't know. I didn't think anything of it. I just wanted to have ice cream with my daughter." Days turned into weeks, and the search for Emily and Sarah intensified. Posters bearing their faces blanketed the town, and news crews descended upon Green Valley, turning the quiet community into a media frenzy. The initial shock of their disappearance morphed into anger as rumors swirled. Why didn't she protect her child? How could a mother let this happen? The whispers clawed at Sarah's heart, each one a reminder of her failure. Meanwhile, the search continued. The police followed every lead, interviewed every neighbor, and scoured every inch of the area. But as the days turned into months, hope began to dwindle. Sarah felt as if she were trapped in a nightmare from which she could not wake. Each day without Emily was a constant reminder of her absence, a gaping void that threatened to swallow her whole. As the years passed, the once vibrant memories faded into a painful blur. But the determination to find her daughter never waned. Sarah became a fixture in local advocacy groups, pouring herself into raising awareness about missing children, hoping that one day she would hear news about Emily. Little did she know that 11 years later, the answers she sought would come from the most unexpected place, the basement of a neighbor. Asterisk, asterisk, to be continued. Asterisk, asterisk. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows over the neighborhood as Sarah stood in front of her modest home. The late afternoon light struck the edges of the faded red mailbox, illuminating the name Mason that had become synonymous with loss and longing. 11 years had passed since that fateful day, yet the memories felt fresh, like the sting of salt water in her eyes. As she gazed at the well-kept lawns and cheerful porch lights of her neighbors, Sarah's heart tightened. Their lives had continued, unfurling in the mundane rhythm of suburbia, while hers had been frozen in time, a snapshot of despair. She felt like a ghost among the living, haunted by the laughter of children playing in the distance, their joy stark against the silence that filled her home. The police cars had long since vacated the street, but the echoes of their sirens lingered in her mind. As the sun set, it painted the sky in hues of orange and violet, a beautiful tragedy that reminded her of Emily's vibrant spirit. The warmth of those fleeting moments with her daughter, so full of life and laughter, seemed to mock her now. Lost in thought, Sarah turned her attention to the old oak tree at the end of the block. Its gnarled branches reached out like the hands of the past, beckoning her to remember. She recalled the day they had played beneath its sprawling canopy, Emily giggling as she chased the fluttering leaves. That laughter was now a distant memory, buried beneath layers of grief. The doorbell rang, jolting her back to reality. Startled, she wiped away the stray tear that had escaped her defenses and opened the door to find Detective Harris standing on her porch. His face, once youthful, now bore the weight of years spent chasing shadows. The lines around his eyes deepened, but there was a softness to his expression that hinted at empathy. "Sarah," he said gently, stepping inside as she stepped aside, "I know it's been a long time since we've talked, but I have some news." Her heart raced, a surge of hope and dread, battling for dominance within her. "What is it?" she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I received a call this morning," he began, his tone serious. "A neighbor reported something unusual in their basement. They've been renovating, and while clearing out some old furniture, they found a box that didn't belong to them." Sarah's stomach dropped. "What kind of box?" "It's hard to say," he continued, his gaze steady, "but it's been sent to the lab for analysis." "I thought you should know." She felt a flicker of something. Could it be hope? Or was it just the cruel trick of a heart desperate to grasp at any sign of Emily? Did they find anything? Anything that could be connected to Emily? Detective Harris hesitated, his brow furrowing. We won't know until we get the results back, but I thought it was important for you to be aware. I'll keep you posted. Thank you, she replied, her voice trembling. The weight of the moment pressed heavily upon her, and she gestured for him to sit. Why now? Why after all these years? Sometimes things take time to surface. People talk, memories fade, but sometimes, he paused, searching for the right words. Sometimes pieces of the past resurface unexpectedly. I know it's painful, but we have to hope. Hope. The word felt foreign on her tongue, a reminder of the countless nights spent wrestling with despair. What if it's nothing? She asked, her voice breaking. Detective Harris leaned forward, his eyes searching hers. Then we keep looking. You've been an incredible advocate for missing children, Sarah. You've kept Emily's story alive. No one can take that away from you. His words lingered in the air, heavy with the weight of truth. Sarah felt the familiar rush of guilt wash over her. Was she doing enough? Had she truly kept Emily's memory alive? Or was she merely a shadow of the mother she once was? Can I see the basement? She asked suddenly, her determination surfacing like a lifeline. I need to see it for myself. Detective Harris regarded her for a moment, weighing her request. It's not advisable, Sarah. The investigation is still ongoing, and I wouldn't want you to get in the way. But what if there's something that could lead us to her? The desperation in her voice was palpable. Please, I have to know, he sighed, running a hand through his hair. All right, but only for a few minutes. I'll take you, but you have to promise to stay calm. As they drove through the familiar streets, Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. Each house they passed felt like a reminder of what she'd lost, a vibrant family life that had crumbled into dust. The sun had disappeared, leaving behind a darkening sky that mirrored her inner turmoil. When they arrived at the neighbor's house, a modest two-story home with peeling paint, she felt her heart pound in her chest. The words basement echoed ominously in her mind, and fear twisted in her stomach. It felt wrong to be here, but she couldn't ignore the pull of the unknown. Stay close, Detective Harris instructed as they stepped inside. The air was stale, tinged with the scent of dust and neglect. She followed him down a narrow hallway, their footsteps echoing against the wooden floorboards. Sarah's heart raced as they approached the basement door, each step heavier than the last. With a creak, the door swung open to reveal a dimly lit space cluttered with boxes and old furniture. The air was thick, almost suffocating, and the shadows seemed to twist and writhe in the corners. She felt a shiver run down her spine. Over here, Detective Harris said, leading her to a corner where a large box sat, covered in a layer of dust. It looked unassuming, but her breath caught in her throat. This is it. Sarah stared at the box, her heart racing as she took a step closer. It was an ordinary cardboard container, but her mind raced with the extraordinary possibilities it could hold. What's inside? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Again, we don't know yet. We'll have to wait for the lab results, but, he paused, his tone shifting. You need to prepare yourself. Whatever is in there could be difficult. She nodded, swallowing hard. The air felt heavy with anticipation, and she fought to keep her emotions in check. Can I open it? Not yet, he replied firmly. We have to let the professionals handle this. I know it's frustrating, but we can't risk contaminating the evidence. Sarah stepped back, her heart sinking. The box was just a box for now, a question mark in the darkness, but it represented everything she had fought for over the years, the hope of finding Emily. I need to do something, she said, her voice shaking with determination. I can't just wait. Detective Harris studied her for a moment, his expression softening. What do you want to do? I want to talk to the neighbor. I want to know why they didn't report this sooner. I want to understand what led them to discover it. He nodded slowly, understanding the urgency in her voice. All right, I'll arrange a meeting. But Sarah, please be careful. This is a sensitive matter. As they left the basement, Sarah felt a flicker of hope igniting within her, a fire-long thought extinguished. She was ready to confront the past, to unravel the threads of mystery that had haunted her for over a decade. The box in the basement held secrets, and she was determined to uncover them, no matter the cost. As they stepped back into the evening air, the stars began to twinkle overhead, a silent reminder that even in the darkest of nights, light could still break through. Sarah was resolute. The search for Emily was far from over, and she would not rest until the truth was laid bare before her. The air was thick with tension as Sarah stood on the threshold of the neighbor's basement, the dim light spilling from the open door like a beckoning hand. She could hear the distant hum of cicadas, a stark contrast to the pounding in her chest. Detective Harris shifted beside her, his presence a steady anchor amidst the storm of her emotions. The box he had mentioned loomed large in her mind, a harbinger of hope and dread. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice low and calm. Sarah swallowed hard, nodding even as the lump in her throat threatened to choke her. "I need to see it," she said, the words tumbling out with a desperate urgency. "I need to know." The detective led her down the creaking steps, the scent of damp wood and dust filling her nostrils. Each step felt like a descent into her own memories, the warmth of Emily's laughter, the sweetness of their shared moments now overshadowed by the darkness of uncertainty. The basement was poorly lit, shadows dancing along the walls, and the air felt cooler, almost stifling. At the far end of the room, a simple cardboard box sat on a rickety table, its edges frayed and worn. Sarah's breath hitched as she approached it, the world narrowing to that singular point. She could feel her heart racing, each beat echoing the unspoken questions swirling in her mind. "What if it's not her?" she whispered, the fear clawing at her chest. "What if it's just nothing?" Detective Harris stepped closer, his expression a mixture of empathy and professionalism. "We don't know what's inside yet. It's possible it might not contain anything linked to her, but we have to investigate." She nodded, forcing herself to take a steadying breath. "I have to see for myself." With a gentle nod, he reached for the box, lifting the lid carefully. The hinges creaked in protest, and Sarah's heart raced. As the box opened, a faint musty smell wafted out, mingling with the air around them. Inside lay a collection of items, old clothes, toys, and some photographs, all haphazardly arranged as if someone had tossed them in without a second thought. Sarah's hands trembled as she reached inside, her fingers brushing against a faded pink dress, one that was all too familiar. It was Emily's favorite, the one she had worn on their last outing together. The fabric was still soft, but it felt cold and foreign in her grasp. Memories flooded back, each one sharper than the last. "Is that—" Detective Harris's voice trailed off, watching her reaction with a mixture of concern and understanding. "Yes," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. This was hers. As she pulled the dress closer, a small, weathered photograph slipped from the pile, fluttering down to the floor like a fallen leaf. She bent to pick it up, her hands shaking as she examined the image. It was a picture of a young girl with a bright smile, holding a teddy bear. The girl's face was obscured by shadows, but the innocence in her eyes was unmistakable. "Who is she?" Sarah asked, her heart pounding in her ears. "I don't know," Harris replied, his brow furrowing as he studied the photograph. "We'll need to run it through missing persons databases." Sarah's breath hitched again, a mix of hope and dread swirling within her. What if she's connected to Emily? What if this is a clue? Before the detective could respond, Sarah's eyes fell on a small metal box nestled at the bottom of the cardboard one. It was locked, rusted at the hinges, and her heart raced as she reached for it. "What's this?" she asked, a new wave of urgency flooding her. "I don't know," Detective Harris said, stepping closer, "but it's worth looking into." With a fierce determination, Sarah shook the box lightly, the sound of something shifting inside igniting her curiosity. "Do you have anything to open it?" He produced a small pocket knife, its blade glinting in the dim light. "Here," he said, handing it to her. "Be careful." Sarah took the knife, her hands steady against the backdrop of her spiraling thoughts. She pried at the lock, the rust crumbling beneath the blade. With a soft click, the lid creaked open, revealing a jumble of items that sent a chill down her spine. Inside, a few crumpled notes lay atop a faded photograph, a picture of a house, eerily familiar, its windows dark and uninviting. "Wait," she said, her voice faltering. "That house? It looks like the one across the street from where we used to live." Detective Harris leaned in closer, his brow furrowing. "Interesting. Did you ever have any connection to it?" "No," Sarah breathed, her mind racing back to the days before Emily's disappearance. But I remember seeing someone there, just standing in the window watching us. We'll investigate that house next, he said, his tone resolute. We need to gather more information. A knot formed in Sarah's stomach. The idea of revisiting the past brought with it a wave of nausea. But she pushed it down, unwilling to let fear dictate her decisions. What else is in there? She asked, her voice steadying. She pulled out the crumpled notes, their edges worn and faded. One of them had a name scrawled across it, Lila. The name meant nothing to her, but it felt significant in a way she couldn't quite grasp. Do you recognize this? She asked, holding the note out to Harris. No, he replied, examining it closely, but it's worth noting. We can run a background check. As Sarah continued to sift through the contents, she discovered a small bracelet, its charm shaped like a butterfly, and a tiny weathered journal. The journal's pages were yellowed and fragile, filled with scrawled handwriting. She opened it cautiously, the pages crackling under her fingertips. The first entry was dated years prior, filled with mundane thoughts and doodles from a child's perspective. But as she flipped through, a darker tone emerged. I'm afraid of the dark, one entry read. They say it whispers secrets. Secrets, Sarah echoed softly, her heart racing. The word hung in the air, heavy with foreboding. Sarah, Harris said, his voice breaking the spell. We need to take this evidence back to the station. It could be crucial. She nodded, her hands trembling as she carefully placed the items back into the box. The implications of what she found weighed heavily on her soul. Each piece felt like a thread leading her closer to the truth. Yet the truth also threatened to unravel everything she held dear. As they made their way back upstairs, the oppressive air of the basement clung to Sarah, a reminder of everything that had been lost. Each step felt like a step deeper into the unknown, and yet she clung to the glimmer of hope ignited by the discovery. Once outside, the sunlight felt harsh against her skin, a stark contrast to the darkness she had just left behind. Detective Harris gestured for her to follow him to his car, the familiar sound of the neighborhood fading into the background as they drove away. As the pavement rolled beneath them, Sarah's mind raced with thoughts of Emily, the lost years, and the haunting secrets of that basement. The past had come rushing back, and with it, the faintest whisper of hope that maybe, just maybe, she would find her daughter again. The journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but Sarah knew one thing. She would not stop until she uncovered the truth. The early afternoon sun cast long shadows across the driveway as Sarah stood beside Detective Harris, her heart pounding in her chest. The weight of the discoveries pressed down on her, mingling with the familiar ache of loss that had settled deep within her since that fateful day 11 years ago. She stared at the photograph in Harris's hands, a snapshot of a young girl with bright, mischievous eyes, a girl who looked strikingly like Emily. Are you sure this is her? Sarah's voice trembled, each word laced with a cocktail of hope and dread. She felt the air around her shift, thickening with the ghosts of memory. Harris nodded slowly, his gaze steady as he studied her reaction. It's hard to say for certain without further investigation, but the resemblance is undeniable. The photograph was worn at the edges, its colors fading like the memories that haunted her. Emily had been 8 when she vanished, and yet there was something about the girl in the picture, a spark of familiarity that momentarily ignited the flickering flame of hope within Sarah's heart. What about the journal? The notes? She pressed, her voice rising slightly as she fought against the tide of anxiety. We'll need to analyze everything carefully, Harris replied, his tone calm yet urgent. But the entries seemed to point to someone who was in distress. It's possible that whoever wrote them was involved in your daughter's disappearance. As they walked back toward the house, Sarah's mind raced, each step echoing with the memories of the last time she had been so close to finding answers. She had been chasing shadows for years, attending support groups, poring over police reports, and sharing her story with anyone who would listen. Yet now, in the midst of this unearthed evidence, she felt a sense of resolve solidify within her. The darkness that had once enveloped her began to part, revealing a narrow path toward the truth. Do you think the house is still standing? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Harris glanced at her, his brow furrowing. It should be. If it's connected, we need to visit it. It might hold more clues. They climbed into the detective's car, the vehicle's interior feeling too small for the enormity of the moment. As the engine roared to life, Sarah felt the weight of those years behind her. Every tear shed, every sleepless night spent dreaming of her daughter's laughter. She looked out the window, watching the suburban landscape blur as they drove, her thoughts swirling like the leaves caught in the wind. The closer they got to the old neighborhood, the more her stomach twisted with anticipation. The vibrant colors of the trees lining the streets seemed muted, shadows stretching longer, as if time were collapsing into itself. The houses they passed were familiar, yet foreign, each one a reminder of the life she once led. They turned onto a street that felt like a ghost of the past, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat as they approached the home she had shared with Emily. The house stood at the end of the block, its facade worn but still standing tall, a relic of happier days. The memories flooded back. Baking cookies in the kitchen, Emily's laughter ringing through the halls, the playful banter that had filled their lives with joy. All of that seemed like a lifetime ago. When Harris parked the car, Sarah hesitated, her hand resting on the door handle. What if we find something? Something we're not ready for? She murmured, the weight of her own fears pushing down on her. Then we face it together, Harris said, his voice firm yet gentle. You've been strong enough to endure this for years. You deserve answers, Sarah. Taking a deep breath, she nodded and stepped out, the gravel crunching under her shoes as she approached the front door. The air felt thick with anticipation, and she felt the world around her narrow to the space between the door and her heart. With each creak of the floorboards, the memories whispered of better times, but also of the darkness that had crept in with Emily's absence. Inside, the house was dim, sunlight spilling through the dusty windows and casting ghostly shapes across the floor. Harris led the way, his flashlight cutting through the shadows as they descended into the basement. Each step echoed, reverberating through her mind as she thought of the items they had found earlier. What else might be hidden here? The basement was a cluttered mess of old furniture, boxes stacked haphazardly, and remnants of life that once thrived. The air was stale, filled with the smell of mildew and neglect. Sarah felt a chill creep up her spine as she surveyed the room, the unease creeping in like an unwelcome visitor. Over here, Harris called, his flashlight illuminating a corner where a small box lay half buried under a pile of old blankets. He crouched down, brushing aside the dust and debris to reveal a faded blue box decorated with stickers, a stark contrast to the grim surroundings. Sarah's heart raced as she knelt beside him, the familiar shape stirring something deep within her. Emily's box, she breathed, recognizing it immediately. In the years since her daughter's disappearance, she had often imagined what treasures Emily would have stored away, drawings, trinkets from school, perhaps even notes to her future self. Harris opened the box, revealing an assortment of items: a faded drawing of a cat with a silly grin, a small wooden bracelet, and a crumpled piece of paper with Emily's handwriting. Sarah picked up the drawing, her fingers trembling as she traced the lines with her fingertips. Memories flooded back. Emily's giggles while drawing, the pride in her voice as she shared her creations. But there was also a dark undercurrent to the nostalgia. Why was this here? She whispered, her heart heavy with questions. Perhaps she was trying to keep it hidden, Harris suggested, his expression serious. Or maybe it was taken from her. The thought sent a shiver down Sarah's spine, igniting a fire of anger within her. She had spent years fighting against the notion that Emily was gone forever. The idea that someone had stolen her daughter's innocence was unbearable. Let's keep looking, she said, her voice firmer now, determination flooding her veins. There has to be more. As they sifted through the remnants of the past, Sarah felt her resolve strengthen with each item they uncovered: old toys, forgotten clothes, and a collection of photos that seemed to whisper secrets from the shadows. Each one was a piece of Emily's life, a reminder of the child who had once filled her world with light. Then, tucked beneath a pile of dusty old clothes, Sarah found a small diary. Its cover was worn, the pages yellowed with age. She opened it cautiously, her heart racing as she began to read. The handwriting was small and erratic, filled with frantic scribbles that hinted at confusion and fear. "I don't know where I am," one entry read. "They say I'm safe, but I don't feel safe. I miss Mom." Tears blurred Sarah's vision as she continued to read, each entry cutting deeper into her heart. "I want to go home," another one pleaded. "I hope she finds me." She felt herself crumbling, the weight of loss and despair crashing over her like a tidal wave. But then something shifted within her. These words were not just echoes of the past. They were a lifeline, a message from Emily that she was still fighting, still hoping. "Sarah!" Harris's voice broke through her haze, concern etched on his face. "Are you okay?" She looked up, tears streaming down her cheeks, but this time they were tears of determination. "I have to find her," she said, her voice choked but resolute. "Whatever it takes." As they left the basement, the sun began to set, casting a warm glow across the neighborhood. Sarah felt a surge of energy, a renewed sense of purpose. The darkness had lingered long enough, and she would not let it consume her. Emily was out there, and she would stop at nothing to bring her home. With each step forward, the shadows of doubt began to recede. Together with Harris, they would unravel the secrets hidden in the old house, confront the truths buried in the past, and ultimately find the daughter she had lost. The journey ahead would be fraught with peril, but for the first time in years, Sarah felt ready to face it. The air in Sarah's small kitchen felt thick with anticipation, the remnants of hope mingling with the pervasive scent of stale coffee. She stood at the counter, her hands trembling slightly as she flipped through the pages of Emily's diary once more. The soft rustle of the paper echoed in the silence, each entry a reminder of the girl who had once filled their home with laughter and light. "Mom, can I have some juice?" A small voice broke through her reverie, and Sarah looked up to find her neighbor's daughter, Lily, peering hopefully at her. The innocence in Lily's wide eyes was a stark contrast to the darkness that had enveloped Sarah's life since Emily vanished. "Sure, sweetie. Just a second." Sarah forced a smile, trying to mask the storm brewing inside her. She poured the juice, her mind still racing with the implications of the diary's revelations. Emily had wanted to be found. The weight of those words pressed heavily on her chest. As she handed the cup to Lily, Sarah felt a surge of protectiveness. The little girl was just a few years younger than Emily had been at the time of her disappearance. The thought twisted her heart. "You know, you remind me a lot of Emily," she said softly, her voice trembling. Lily beamed, completely unaware of the shadows swirling around them. "Really, I can ride my bike really fast. I bet I could beat her." Sarah chuckled, though it held no joy. "I'm sure you could." Just then, the doorbell rang, and her heart raced. She glanced at the clock. It was nearly noon. Detective Harris was on time for once, and the thought both comforted and unnerved her. She opened the door to find him standing there, a look of determination etched across his face. "Detective," she greeted, stepping aside to let him in. "Sarah, I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all." She gestured for him to take a seat at the kitchen table, where remnants of her frantic morning lay scattered, a half-opened box of cereal, a forgotten bowl of fruit, and, most importantly, Emily's diary. "I've been going over Emily's entries again." Harris nodded, his eyes lingering on the diary. "I found something that might connect to what you discovered in the neighbor's basement." He pulled out a folder, thick with papers, and laid it on the table. The crisp sound of paper sliding against paper broke the stillness. "What is it?" Sarah leaned closer, her breath hitching with anticipation. "Witness statements from the time of her disappearance. We've tracked down a few people who were in the area that day." He opened the folder, revealing black and white photographs and handwritten notes. Some of them mention a girl who matched Emily's description, seen around the grocery store that afternoon. But there's more. As he spoke, Sarah felt a mixture of dread and excitement. The possibility that someone had seen Emily stirred up emotions she had buried deep. "What do you mean?" Harris tapped a photograph, a blurry image of a little girl playing in the parking lot. "This girl was seen talking to a woman. Witnesses said the woman seemed friendly, but I'm not sure how trustworthy these accounts are. They don't remember much detail, and the descriptions of the woman vary." Sarah's heart raced. What if that was her? What if Emily was taken by someone she trusted? Harris nodded solemnly. "That's the concern. We're looking into the woman, but we need more to go on. There's also something else." He pulled out another piece of paper, its corners worn with age. This is a police report from a few years back. It mentions Lila. The name came up in connection to several missing persons cases. Lila, the name echoed in Sarah's mind, stirring up a sense of unease. She recalled the name from the photographs they had found. Could it really be connected? Yeah, it's been a common thread in several disappearances. We're still piecing it together, but it might be worth investigating. He looked at her, his eyes searching for her reaction. I know this is a lot, but it feels like we're getting closer. Closer, Sarah whispered, her voice barely a breath. The word felt heavy, like a promise that could be both a beacon of hope and a harbinger of despair. Do you want to go to the police station and look at the full reports? We can see if anything else stands out, Harris suggested. Sarah hesitated, the thought of confronting the memories of that day flooding her mind like a wave. But there was no turning back now. She had to know. Yes, let's go. As they drove through the familiar suburban streets, the landscape felt different. The once vibrant colors of the community now appeared muted, each house a reminder of what had been lost. The grocery store loomed ahead, a specter of the past, and Sarah's heart raced as they parked in front of it. Are you ready? Harris asked, his voice steady yet gentle. She nodded, though the feeling of dread lodged in her throat made it hard to breathe. I have to be. Inside the station, the fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a sterile glow. They walked through the bustling halls, passing officers engaged in their daily routines. It felt surreal, as though time had folded in on itself. This place had been a constant in her life since Emily disappeared, yet now it felt foreign. Harris guided her to a small conference room where they were met by another officer, a tall man with tired eyes. Detective Harris, he greeted, shaking his hand. And you must be Sarah. Yes, she replied, forcing herself to maintain eye contact, even as the weight of the moment pressed down on her. Let's get started. He spread a collection of reports across the table, each one a piece of the puzzle that had eluded her for so long. As Sarah perused the documents, her heart sank deeper with each line. The reports detailed sightings of children, all with similar descriptions, all vanished without a trace. As she read about Lila, her name appearing repeatedly, linked to various cases, her stomach knotted. Is there a connection between Lila and the woman who was seen with Emily? Sarah asked, her voice trembling. Harris exchanged a glance with the officer, who nodded. We're working on that. There's speculation that Lila may have been part of a larger network, but we haven't confirmed anything yet. The words hung heavy in the air. A network. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper, but it echoed with the weight of her fears. Yes, we believe that these disappearances may not be random, but rather tied to something more sinister. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The thought of a larger conspiracy, an unseen hand orchestrating the pain of families like hers, was almost too much to bear. What do we do next? We keep digging, Harris said, determination hardening his voice. We need to find Lila and the woman from the grocery store. We need to know what happened to Emily. As they delved deeper into the reports, Sarah's resolve crystallized. She would not rest until she uncovered the truth, no matter how dark it might be. With each page turned, she felt the embers of hope reigniting within her, a flicker of light in the consuming shadows of her past. And as the sun began to set outside, casting a golden glow through the conference room window, Sarah knew they were on the brink of something monumental. The truth was waiting, and she was ready to face it. The sunlight dipped low in the sky, casting elongated shadows on the pavement where Sarah stood, her heart racing as she clutched the items from the box. Detective Harris had left her alone for a moment, giving her the space to absorb the weight of the discoveries. Emily's favorite dress, a faded pink with delicate flowers, lay folded carefully on the passenger seat of her car. Next to it, the journal, its pages filled with innocent musings, punctuated by the unmistakable handwriting of an 8-year-old. Sarah traced her fingers over the cover, feeling the slight roughness of the paper and the ghost of her daughter's laughter echoing in her mind. How many times had they flipped through it together? Emily's eyes sparkling with excitement as she shared her daydreams. Now the journal felt like a tether to a past that had been cruelly severed. She took a deep breath, fighting back tears. I will find you, Emily, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the noise of the bustling parking lot. The world continued to move around her, unaware of the turmoil that churned within her heart. After a moment, Sarah pushed the car door closed and walked toward the small park across the street. The sun hung low, washing everything in a warm golden hue, but the beauty felt hollow. She settled onto a bench, the wood cool beneath her, and opened the journal. Each entry was a glimpse into her daughter's world. Stories about imaginary friends, playground adventures, and dreams of becoming a princess. The innocence of it all made her chest ache. One entry caught her eye, dated just days before Emily disappeared. Today I saw a lady with bright red hair. She smiled at me. I think she was sad. I wanted to help her. Sarah's breath caught. The woman with red hair, the one seen with Emily on that fateful day. A chill crept up her spine. What had happened in those fleeting moments? The distant sound of laughter from children playing nearby broke her reverie. She closed the journal, tucking it under her arm. The warmth of the sun was beginning to fade, and with it, the last remnants of hope she clung to. She needed answers, and the urgency of her search pressed against her like a weight on her chest. As she stood to leave, a familiar figure approached. Detective Harris, his brow furrowed with concern. "Sarah, are you all right?" His voice was steady yet filled with genuine empathy. She nodded, though the tremor in her hands betrayed her. I need to understand what happened. I need to know why." Harris glanced at the journal, then back at her, his expression serious. "We're doing everything we can. The items you found are crucial. They might lead us to more clues about Lila and the woman seen with Emily." The name echoed in her mind, a dark specter looming over her thoughts. "What do we know about Lila?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and determination. "We're still gathering information. The name has come up in several missing persons cases, but it's not clear if it's a person or an alias. We suspect a connection to a larger network involved in abductions." He paused, his eyes searching hers. "But we need your help to understand what happened that day." Sarah felt a surge of anger. "My help? I've been trying to find my daughter for 11 years. What more can I do?" Harris took a step closer, lowering his voice. "I know this is painful, but we need to retrace your steps. Every detail from that day could be vital. The woman, the car, anything you remember." She turned away, her mind swirling with memories of that fateful trip. The grocery store, the bright lights, the chatter of customers. The normalcy of it all felt like a cruel joke now. "It feels like a lifetime ago," she murmured. "It was," he replied softly, "but that doesn't mean it's too late. You fought so hard to keep hope alive. Let's not give up now." His words ignited a flicker of determination within her. She squared her shoulder, feeling the weight of the journal pressing against her side like a lifeline. "All right, let's go back." The drive back to the grocery store felt surreal, each familiar landmark triggering a rush of emotions. Sarah's heart raced as they pulled into the parking lot, the same spot where she had parked 11 years ago, blissfully unaware of what awaited her. She stepped out of the car, breathing in the familiar sense of fresh produce and baked bread, but the sweetness was tainted by memories of loss. Detective Harris walked beside her, his presence a steadying force. "Where do you want to start?" She looked around, her gaze landing on the entrance. "I need to remember everything about that day. The people, the sounds, anything." As they approached the entrance, the automatic doors slid open with a familiar whoosh, and the bright lights inside felt blinding. The store was bustling with activity, shoppers pushing carts, children laughing, the hum of casual conversations. It felt like stepping into a different world, one where her life hadn't been shattered. "Let's take a walk through," Harris suggested, his tone encouraging. "Start from the beginning." She nodded, taking a deep breath to steady herself. They moved through the aisles, Sarah's mind racing with fragmented memories. The produce section, where she had picked out strawberries for Emily's favorite dessert. The cereal aisle, where she had let her daughter choose a box of colorful flakes. And then the dairy section, where she had turned her back for just a moment. "Do you remember anything specific about that moment?" Harris asked gently, guiding her through the aisles. I, I remember feeling rushed. I was trying to get everything done before the afternoon rush. Emily wanted to stay close, but I was distracted. Her voice trembled as she recalled the chaos of that day, the feeling of her heart pounding as she searched for the perfect yogurt. Distracted by what? He pressed, his eyes focused on her. Just life, I guess. Work, bills, everything. She shook her head, frustration bubbling up. But I should have been paying attention. I should have. Sarah, this isn't your fault, he interrupted, his voice firm yet kind. You weren't to know. Focus on what you can remember about that woman. The mention of the woman sent a jolt through her. The red-haired woman, she whispered almost to herself. I remember she was standing by the checkout looking at Emily. She had this sad smile, like she wanted to say something but couldn't. Did she say anything to Emily? Harris asked, his pen poised over his notepad. No, just smiled. I thought nothing of it. She looked out of place, but I was too busy to care. They continued moving through the store, Sarah's heart pounding with the weight of the memories. There was a car parked outside, she recalled suddenly. A blue sedan. I remember because Emily pointed at it and said it was pretty. Do you remember the license plate? Harris asked, his tone shifting to one of urgency. No, I didn't think to look. I was just trying to get her into the car. She felt a wave of despair wash over her. I should have paid more attention. Every detail matters, he reminded her as they reached the exit. Let's take a look outside. As they stepped into the parking lot, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The blue sedan was gone, but the memories flooded back like a tidal wave. She closed her eyes, trying to summon a clearer image. The woman. She was wearing a long coat. It was cold that day. I remember because Emily wanted to wear her own coat, but I insisted she didn't need it. Do you know if anyone else saw her? Harris pressed. I don't know. I was so focused on Emily. She felt a fresh wave of guilt crash over her. What if someone did see her? What if I could have stopped this? Sarah, he said, his voice firm but soft. You have to let go of that guilt. You did everything you could. Now we need to focus on finding answers. As they stood in the parking lot, surrounded by the remnants of what had once been an ordinary day, Sarah felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. She may have been pushed to the brink of despair, but she was not ready to give up. Emily deserved answers, and she would do whatever it took to find them. Let's keep digging, she said, her voice steady as she squared her shoulders. We can't stop until we know the truth. Harris nodded, a spark of determination igniting in his eyes. Together they would unravel the dark threads of the past, searching for the light that had been lost. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows over the suburban street. The golden light filtered through the trees, illuminating the edges of the forgotten neighborhood as Sarah stood before the grocery store that had once been a place of normalcy. Now it loomed over her like a specter, a constant reminder of what she had lost. She could still hear Emily's laughter echoing in her mind, bright and infectious, as they had walked hand in hand through the aisles. If only she had been more vigilant. If only she had noticed the woman in the blue sedan, perhaps they would have left that day as they always had, with a cart full of groceries and a heart full of joy. A shiver crawled down her spine as she remembered Detective Harris's words about Lila, the elusive figure who seemed to be tangled in a web of disappearances. Sarah had made a promise to herself. She wouldn't allow the past to slip away again. The box in the basement had reignited a fire within her. Each object, Emily's pink dress, the journal, was a piece of her daughter's essence. And they were not just remnants of a life lost. They were clues, breadcrumbs leading her closer to the truth. Mom, a small voice broke through her reverie. Startled, she turned to see a girl, no older than 8, standing a few feet away. She had a familiar face, wide eyes, a smattering of freckles across her nose, and tousled brown hair that caught the light like spun gold. For a moment, it felt as if the universe had bent time and her heart raced with a mix of hope and confusion. Emily, Sarah whispered, her voice trembling as if she might shatter the mirage. The girl blinked, a puzzled frown knitting her brow. No, I'm not Emily. I'm Lily, she said, her tone innocent yet curious. Who are you? Sarah's heart sank. Of course it wasn't Emily, but it felt like a cruel twist of fate, a reminder of all that had been stolen from her. She forced a smile, crouching to meet Lily's gaze. I'm Sarah. I used to have a daughter named Emily. She's missing. Lily's expression softened. Oh, she said quietly. I'm sorry. The moment hung between them, heavy with unspoken grief. Sarah felt a pang in her chest, a reminder of the innocence of childhood, the very innocence that had been ripped away from her own daughter. I used to come here with my mom. We'd get ice cream after shopping, Lily continued, her voice brightening. Do you want to get some? The suggestion, innocent and sweet, felt like a stab in the heart. Ice cream. A simple pleasure, now tainted by the shadows of loss. Maybe later, Sarah replied, standing up straight again. But thank you, sweetie. Lily nodded, her eyes widening as she spotted something behind Sarah. Look, that lady is staring at you. Sarah turned, her heart quickening again, this time with apprehension. A woman stood a few paces away, her features obscured by the late afternoon light. She was dressed in a long coat, too warm for the season, and her hair was pulled back tightly, creating a sharp contrast against her pale skin. Something about her posture felt wrong, as if she was waiting, watching, calculating. Do you know her? Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Before Sarah could respond, the woman stepped forward, her gaze piercing. Sarah, isn't it? She said, her voice smooth but laced with an unsettling chill. Yes, Sarah replied, wary. Who are you? The woman's lips curled into a tight smile. I'm Lila. I believe we have some things to discuss. Sarah's heart raced, the name striking like a bell tolling in the dark. This was Lila, the woman Detective Harris had mentioned. The weight of the moment pressed down on her, and she felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Let's talk somewhere private, Lila continued, her eyes scanning the parking lot as if ensuring they were not overheard. I can help you. Help me or help yourself, Sarah shot back, her voice trembling with indignation. She wanted to flee, to escape this confrontation that felt like a trap, but the raw need for answers tethered her in place. Lila chuckled softly, as if amused by Sarah's defiance. You misunderstand. I know things about Emily, things you want to hear. Sarah's insides twisted. What do you know? Not here, Lila insisted, her tone suddenly urgent, the smile fading from her face. They're watching. Meet me at the park down the street in 10 minutes. I'll tell you everything. Before Sarah could respond, Lila turned and strode away, her coat billowing behind her like a dark cloud, leaving only the lingering scent of something floral and artificial in her wake. Mom, who was that? Lily asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. Just someone I need to talk to, Sarah replied, her mind racing. She felt a pull toward the park, a desperate need to uncover whatever truths Lila held, but a warning bell echoed in her mind. Trusting her was dangerous. Do you want me to come with you? Lily asked, her innocence shining brightly against the backdrop of Sarah's turmoil. No, sweetie, you should stay here. The words felt heavy in her mouth, a mother's instinct tugging at her. I'll be right back. Lily nodded, her brow furrowed with concern. Okay, but be careful. With a deep breath, Sarah turned and hurried toward the park, her heart pounding against her ribs. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown. The sun was sinking lower, casting fiery orange and purple hues across the sky, a stark contrast to the chill creeping into her bones. The park was nearly empty, the swing set swaying gently in the breeze, a haunting reminder of happier times. As Sarah approached, she spotted Lila sitting on a bench, her demeanor calm and collected, as if she hadn't just issued a challenge that could unravel everything Sarah had fought for. Thank you for coming, Lila said, her voice smooth yet laced with a tension that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. What do you know about my daughter? Sarah pressed, not bothering with pleasantries. Her heart raced with urgency. Lila leaned forward, her expression shifting from casual to serious. I know where she is, or at least, I know what happened to her. Sarah felt a rush of heat, a mix of hope and dread. Tell me, she demanded, her voice steadier than she felt. Lila hesitated, her eyes darting around the park before settling back on Sarah. It's complicated. You have to understand that I'm not the enemy here. I can help, but you need to be willing to listen. I'm willing, Sarah replied, the words spilling out before her mind could catch up. Just tell me what I need to know. There's a network. People who take children, Lila began, her voice barely above a whisper. I was involved with them once, but I want out. I know where some of those children are, including Emily. The world around Sarah faded, the park blurring into the background. You're saying you have information. Why should I trust you? Because I know what it's like to lose someone. I want to help you save her, but it won't be easy. Then tell me what to do, Sarah said, her voice thick with determination. Lila took a deep breath, her expression shifting to one of resolve. Meet me tomorrow night at the old playground on Maple Street. I'll bring something that will prove I'm not lying. But you have to be careful. They're always watching. As Lila stood to leave, Sarah felt a surge of desperation. Wait, what about Emily? Tell me she's safe. Lila's gaze softened for a brief moment, an almost imperceptible crack in her stoic facade. I can't promise safety, but there's hope, Sarah. You just have to trust me. With that, Lila turned and walked away, her figure swallowed by the encroaching shadows. Sarah stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest, the weight of her decision pressing down heavily on her shoulders. Tomorrow night. It felt like an eternity away, yet the urgency coursed through her veins, igniting a fire of determination. She had to know the truth. She had to find Emily. As the sun finally dipped beneath the horizon, the park fell into darkness, and with it, the flickering remnants of a life once filled with laughter faded into the shadows.